In 1985, a Dutch researcher named William Frey noticed something in his data that made no sense. Every mammal he studied produced tears for one reason, to protect the eyes. But one species on his list produced tears for a completely different reason, one that had nothing to do with survival at all. That species was us. Humans are the only animals on Earth that cry from emotion, not whimper, not howl. Cry, tears, streaming down the face, triggered by grief, joy, even heartbreak. Elephants show distress. Dogs get watery eyes. But out of more than 8 million species alive on this planet, exactly one cries because it's sad. So why does the most vulnerable-looking behavior in the animal kingdom belong exclusively to us? Frey found that emotional tears aren't chemically the same as the tears that protect your eyes. They carry higher protein levels and elevated stress hormones. When you cry from sadness, you're not just leaking water. You're physically releasing chemicals your body had been holding onto. But that's not the full answer, because it doesn't explain why the release has to be visible. And in 2009, a researcher named Oren Hasson at Tel Aviv University proposed something almost nobody had considered. What if crying isn't about relief at all? What if it's a signal? Tears blur your vision. For a moment, crying makes you less able to see a threat coming. In evolutionary terms, that should be a disadvantage, unless the vulnerability itself is the point. Hasson argued that visible tears function as an honest signal, something that can't easily be faked. A blurred, teary eye tells everyone nearby, I am not a threat. I need something. For a species that survives through cooperation, that signal may have been priceless. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. Every human starts life with exactly one tool, crying. A newborn's cry activates the caregiving regions of an adult brain almost instantly, faster than nearly any other sound humans produce. Some researchers believe the quiet, adult version, tears with no sound at all, is simply that same signal, refined for a species that lives in complex groups where broadcasting distress loudly isn't always safe, but where a quiet signal to the people closest to you still works. A 2011 study by psychologist Ad Vingerhoots tested this directly. Participants were shown identical sad faces, one digitally altered to remove the tears. The crying version was consistently rated as more trustworthy and more in need of help, even though the actual expression hadn't changed. The tears alone were doing the communicating, which raises the deeper question underneath all of this. Not just why we cry, but why evolution would build a species that advertises its own pain in the first place. Every other animal survives by hiding weakness. A wounded gazelle doesn't announce its injury to the herd. A sick wolf doesn't cry out and risk drawing a predator's attention. Vulnerability, in nature, is something to conceal. We evolved the opposite, a visible, hard-to-fake signal that broadcasts exactly when we're struggling. That should be a liability, unless the thing that kept our species alive wasn't concealment, it was connection. Humans didn't survive by being the strongest or the fastest. We survived by cooperating in groups tight enough that showing pain to the right people was safer than hiding it. Somewhere in that long process, crying stopped being a weakness and became one of the most important tools our species ever developed for staying alive together. Which means every time you've cried, at a funeral, at a wedding, alone in a parked car, you weren't malfunctioning. You were running a signal passed down through hundreds of thousands of years because it worked. It kept people close when they needed to be close. No other species on this planet ever developed that. Not the dolphins, not the chimpanzees who share almost 99% of our DNA. Just us, the species that somehow evolved the ability to make its own pain visible enough for someone else to see it and come closer instead of walking away. Maybe that's not a flaw in the design. Maybe it's the whole point.